Imagine holding the backbone of the ancient world's entire economy right in your hand.
We're talking about the Roman silver denarius, right?
Exactly. For 2 solid centuries, this one coin, it was the definition of global financial stability. We're talking 95, maybe even 98% pure silver.
It was sound money, the bedrock of their whole system. You could trust it.
And that trust meant everything. It fueled trade across 3 continents. But here's the shockwave. You flash forward just a few generations to the year 265 AD.
Right into the thick of the crisis of the 3rd century.
And that exact same coin, it contains a microscopic, almost insignificant 0.5% silver.
Wow. From nearly pure silver to basically nothing. It's effectively a worthless token.
A bronze core with a quick silver wash that, rubbed off before you could even spend it.
It's a total economic collapse, and the speed of it is just staggering. So I guess our mission today is to really dig into that. How did the world's most stable currency just implode?
Yes. What kind of financial poison did this inject into the heart of the Roman Empire? We're not just tracing metal content here. This is a deep dive into a desperate cycle of currency debasement, hyperinflation, and the social chaos that followed.
Precisely. And the core driver is, it's pretty clear, the government was trying to fund this huge, bloated military and a sprawling bureaucracy.
And they couldn't pay for it, honestly.
They couldn't. So they chose the easy way out. They destroyed their own money, and in doing so, they destroyed public confidence and paralyzed commerce.
Okay, let's unpack that mechanism. It feels so insidious.
Right.
The basic problem was Rome's costs kept going up. Wars, palaces, administration.
Relentlessly. But the supply of actual gold and silver, that was finite. They couldn't just mine more on demand.
So why not just, raise taxes?
Well, that's the thing. The empire was massive. Collecting taxes across that much territory was incredibly slow and inefficient. Sometimes it took years for revenue to actually make it back to Rome.
So debasement was the shortcut.
No.
Let's call it the creative solution.
It was the creative solution. No need to get the Senate's approval. You just melt down the good coins, mix in some cheaper metal, like copper.
And you can mint far more coins with the same amount of actual silver.
Exactly. The government is essentially turning 1 pound of silver into 2 pounds of currency. It's a hidden tax. A fraud, really.
A hidden poison, as the sources call it. You think you're being paid in silver, but you're slowly getting paid in a lie.
And that rot had been setting in for a long time. The crisis explodes in the 3rd century, but the financial weakness, the debasement, that started way back in the 2nd, maybe even the 1st century.
Let's trace that decline, because the acceleration is what's so frightening.
We could start with someone like Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, right? Reigning 161 to 180 AD. Even then, in that supposedly stable period, the denarius had already dropped to about 75% silver.
So still mostly silver, but the trend is clearly going in the wrong direction.
Right. It still commanded respect. But then you get to the early 3rd century, and the pressures become almost entirely military.
You have to pay the soldiers, and more importantly, you have to keep them loyal.
And that brings us to the Emperor Caracalla from 211 to 217. He gives the army a massive 50% raise, hugely expensive.
So how does he pay for it?
He does something new, something much more overt. He introduces a new coin, the Antonianus.
And this coin is, I think, the point of no return. This is where the psychology of the whole system breaks.
It is, because the Antonianus had a face value of 2 denarii. It was a double denarius, but it only contained the silver weight of about 1.5 denarii. It was deliberately underweight for its stated value.
So the state is no longer just subtly diluting the money. They are openly forcing the economy to accept a lie.
And this is the key historical insight. Inflation doesn't truly spiral out of control until this moment, after the state starts assigning these artificial values completely disconnected from the metal in the coin.
So before, maybe merchants just kind of adjusted for the lower silver content, but this is different.
This shatters public trust. Once the government says a piece of bronze is worth 2 pieces of silver, people stop trusting any coin the government makes.
And what happens then? Do people just stop using the new coins?
Worse, they hoard the old ones. The good, pure denarii vanish, and everyone tries to spend the new bad Antoniani as fast as possible.
Bad money drives out good.
A perfect example of Gresham's law. The market gets flooded with junk, and all the real wealth disappears from circulation.
And once that trust is gone, it just becomes a race to the bottom.
A frantic sprint. By the time of Gallienus, mid-3rd century, the situation is completely out of control. Silver content just plummets. We're talking less than 5%.
And the coins themselves were junk.
Total junk. The sources say they were just bronze cores with that thin silver wash we talked about. It would wear off in a day. The soldiers, the merchants, everyone knew they were being paid in garbage.
Which brings us to that final nadir, around 265 AD.
That's it. The silver content hits that catastrophic low of 0.5%. The currency is, for all intents and purposes, dead.
So you have the quality of money gone, and at the same time, the quantity of these worthless coins is exploding.
A flood of useless tokens chasing a shrinking pool of actual goods. That is the very definition of hyperinflation.
And the numbers are just mind-blowing.
For the first 2 centuries, inflation was basically a non-issue. About 0.7% a year. Incredibly stable.
Which lets people plan, invest, build wealth.
Absolutely. But by the late 3rd century, that stability is a distant memory. Inflation surges to 35% per year.
35%. Prices are rising by more than a third every single year.
And the cumulative effect is what's so shocking. By 265 AD, prices across the entire empire had skyrocketed by 1,000%.
1,000%. I mean, how does a society even function? If you're a baker or a merchant, how do you set prices? Are wages keeping up?
Not at all. Wages never keep up in a hyperinflationary spiral. The sources describe total economic panic. There's this one great metaphor for the government's attempts to fix it. That they reacted like a frightened child at the controls of a runaway express train, pushing all sorts of levers and knobs.
But they couldn't stop it, because they were the ones shoveling coal into the engine by printing more and more worthless money.
Exactly. And this economic apocalypse, as some call it, had devastating real-world consequences.
Our first casualty must have been trade.
Long-distance trade just died.
Yeah.
If you're a merchant shipping grain from Egypt to Italy, you need to know the money you get paid will be worth something when you get it.
And you couldn't know that. It was too risky, too expensive.
So that sophisticated trade network that held the Mediterranean together just dissolves. The money economy gets replaced by local, inefficient barter.
But the state still needs money. The army still needs to be paid, especially during the crisis.
Right. So to chase those rising costs, they turn to the one thing they can still do. Massive, crushing taxation.
Targeting who? The people who still had actual assets, landowners.
Correct. And this is the moment the Roman social fabric just tears apart. These taxes wiped out the urban middle class, the people who owned property, who ran the town councils.
They were the engine of Roman civic life.
And they were destroyed. They couldn't afford the tax bills, which were often demanded in gold or goods, not the worthless coins.
So what did people do? The wealthy ones?
They ran. They retreated to their large country estates, their villas. They basically fortified them and tried to become self-sufficient.
Creating their own little fiefdoms to escape the tax collector.
And in doing so, they killed the Roman city as the center of economic and cultural life. This is the structural shift that lays the groundwork for the entire Middle Ages.
Wow. So you can draw a direct line from currency debasement to feudalism.
You absolutely can. That tax pressure, the flight to the countryside, it eventually leads to workers being legally tied to the land, hereditary jobs they can't leave. You are seeing the birth of medieval serfdom right here.
And the whole economic system changes.
The old, relatively liberal system based on trade and money is thrown out. He's replaced by this blend of what the sources call Oriental etatism and city-state socialism.
What does that mean, Oriental etatism?
It refers to the state taking the central authoritarian control over the economy. The government starts telling people what jobs they have to do, fixing prices by decree, desperately trying to manage the chaos they themselves created. It's a massive expansion of state power into every part of life.
And it's crucial to remember this didn't happen in a vacuum. The empire was also fighting for its life against external threats, civil wars.
A perfect storm. You have political chaos, foreign invasion, and this self-inflicted financial wound all at once. The lesson is just brutal. Without sound money, the state can't survive. Not in its current form, anyway.
Because debasing the currency is really just another form of tax, a secret one.
It's the most important takeaway. It's a way for governments to, and I'm quoting here, confiscate, secretly and unobserved, an important part of the wealth of their citizens. It destroys savings and shatters public confidence in everything.
So the cycle is complete. Military demands lead to debasement, which leads to hyperinflation, which paralyzes the economy, destroys the middle class, and forces this new oppressive social structure into being.
And the empire did, famously, stabilize later in the 3rd century under a series of tough army emperors. They secured the borders and reestablished control. But here's the provocation we should leave you with.
Okay.
Did the Roman Empire actually survive the economic collapse? Or did the collapse just force it to transform into something completely new, a new reality that was, well, stable, but also radically poor, less urban, and much, much less free?
It makes you question what the word survival even means in a historical context. A chilling thought. And it reminds you that the biggest battles aren't always fought on the frontiers. Sometimes the real collapse begins in the mint.